NFL training camp is just about here, which means it's time to actually take a step back from ranking positions and players and actually think about the teams. So in this video, I'm gonna rank every NFC team from the worst, number 16, to the best team in the NFC entering training camp. These are not definitive rankings or record predictions for the 2023 season, but how I feel about your favorite team entering training camp, entering August. So if that sounds good, don't forget to spike the like button and subscribe to the channel for more BLV NFL rankings, including my AFC Power Rankings entering training camp. Let's go. Kicking off my NFC training camp power rankings at number 16. I think you see this one coming. The Arizona Cardinals. Guys, I don't know if I have ever ranked a team number 32 on offense and on defense. You have to be really bad for me to do that. Like, really bad, because I feel bad doing it. But without Kyler Murray, which I don't see Kyler Murray playing that much this year, and if I were the Cardinals, I wouldn't want him to play. I want the first pick, baby. But to me, the Cardinals are absolutely terrible. Like, is there any possible way this team is good? Like, I don't know. I really don't. The offensive line maybe can be a bright spot with Paris Johnson, young rookie, maybe right away contributes. DJ Humphries is a good player. Will Hernandez played his best football last year. I kind of liked some of the moves they made. But they lost a lot of key contributors to this football team the last couple of seasons. J.J. Watt, Zach Allen, Byron Murphy on defense, DeAndre Hopkins on offense. Marquise Brown has to become that number one receiver again. Who knows who's going to be playing quarterback consistently? James Conner's only getting older. I do think Trey McBride will be a good player in the NFL, but Zach Ertz is still kind of in his way. And then you have Rondell Moore. I'm not sure if he's anything more than like a gadget guy. Defensively, they just don't have much up front at all. They have zero pass rush. Their linebackers are all right. Their safeties are pretty good, led by Budda Baker. Their corners are definitely below average, but maybe a little underrated. It just feels like the Cardinals don't have any superstars, anything to hang their hat on. They have a new regime, a new coaching staff, just a franchise that wants to get the first pick. It really truly feels like this team is all in for a rebuild, and that is absolutely, in this NFC, without a doubt, a bad NFC, the worst team in a bad NFC. At number 15, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Yeah, I have the Bucs as the second worst team in the NFC. It's not really to do with the roster so much as it is to do with the coach and the quarterback. I think there's a team or two above them that I just trust the development of their quarterback, the play of their quarterback, or the coach a little bit more than I trust Todd Bowles or Baker Mayfield or Kyle Trask. I like the Bucs roster still. Like, I think if they still had Tom Brady, they would still be a playoff team in this conference, to be honest with you. But that's just a drastic drop-off, going from the GOAT, even though he wasn't the GOAT at the end, to Baker Mayfield, who was absolutely putrid. I'm talking disgustingly awful with the Carolina Panthers. And so much so that Sam Darnold, lapped him at the quarterback position in Carolina. I understand he went to LA and he played a lot better there, but still, I don't know. I feel like new system offensively for Tampa Bay. Mike Evans getting a little bit older. I expect a big season from Chris Godwin. I'm intrigued to see what Rachaad White and Cade Otton look like without Tom Brady, because I felt like they were kind of Tom Brady products from a production standpoint. Russell Gage hopefully is healthier this year to contribute as a wide receiver, but they very much lack speed on offense. The offensive line, I think, will be hit and miss. Tristan Wirf's an absolute alpha stud. Cody Mock, I'm intrigued to see as a rookie, but Luke Gedeke, I just have no hope for. Now, Ryan Jensen should solidify the middle, but he's also coming off a major injury at an older age. Defensively, they're still I feel like they were kind of good last year, but they were also inconsistent. Devin White and Levante in the middle. Their pass rush on paper is better, adding Kalijah Cansey, getting back Shaq Barrett. They very much could not rush the passer at the end of last year. And their secondary is fairly solid, but lacking the depth it used to have. Antoine Winfield Jr. is one of my favorite players. I like the Bucs. Like, I'm talking about these players. I like them. I just don't have a lot of faith in Todd Bowles. I don't have a lot of faith in Baker Mayfield. So I see them as a team that maybe they surprise me in a couple games and they upset a couple teams due to defensive play and a couple big plays from Mike Evans and company. But I honestly think they're going to be one of those teams that's in a lot of games that ends up losing a lot of the games because Tom Brady's not there to win them at the end. And that's just why I have them at number 15. At number 14, the Los Angeles Rams. This is a team that it puzzles me why so many people think they have a realistic chance of even making it close to the playoffs. Like, for them to make the playoffs, Matthew Stafford has to play like an MVP. Sean McVay has to have his best coaching season of his career. And guys like Van Jefferson, Tyler Higbee, Cam Akers have to have career years supporting Cooper Kupp being healthy the entire season, which it felt like last year Cooper Kupp just fell apart given that he was the engine of the offense for their Super Bowl season and then just rode into the ground last year. Actually was having a very good year. The offensive line I would expect to be a bit better than last year, but I don't expect it to be good. I am concerned about Matthew Stafford staying upright and being the same player, lacking mobility. Will that arm strength and that ability to throw the football still be at peak levels? I'm not sure. We will see. I think the offense will still be competent given McVay and Stafford on the field with Cooper Kupp, but they don't have a lot outside of Cooper Kupp weaponry-wise. The defense is just putrid besides Aaron Donald. Like, the names speak for themselves. They just don't have anybody that you really look at and like dangerous playmaker in the secondary. They have a lot of guys that are unproven, no-name players, and that stands out to me. I think they're going to be pretty bad on defense. I do like their scheme, and I do like their defensive coordinator, but I just don't think they have enough to work with. So I think it's going to be a tough season for Rams fans because they're going to be one of those teams that is well coached, and it feels like they are given an opportunity to be in a lot of games and potentially win a lot of games, but they just don't have the players to execute it at a high level. So I have them at number 14. They really need a rebuilding draft year to get back into the mix in the NFC. At number 13, the Chicago Bears. This is a team that quite a few people think is going to break out. And I've been sort of on this crusade to shoot down any Justin Fields believers. And it's not because I despise the Bears or hate Justin Fields. It's just more so the most absurd propaganda campaign I've ever seen in the social media age of the NFL. And I think Colin Cowherd, my guy, backed me up very well, where he went out and he said that Justin Fields is a YouTube quarterback. And I very much agree. I've said this before. He is a highlight reels dream. The guy is an athletic specimen, arguably the best runner at the position in football, and does have a strong arm. But it's all the small things that maybe fans don't recognize about quarterback play that you really need to be able to do at a high level to be successful. And Justin Fields lacks all of those things. So unless he changes that, they're not going to be a great offense passing the ball. They're going to have to rely a lot on running, Justin running, Foreman running, Herbert running. Their offensive line, I like a lot. I think it's being slept on a ton by the general audience. I think a lot of people still think it's the same unit it was, but they added Darnell Wright and Nate Davis, and I think they sorted some things out up front. I also love the addition of DJ Moore. Darnell Mooney should have a better season this year. I still believe he has a lot of talent. And defensively, I think that's my biggest concern with the team. I think they're going to be matchups in games where they're able to move the ball at will because of their running game. I think it's going to be really strong. But the defense, I just don't see a pass rush. The secondary is very young and kind of lacking consistency. And yeah, I like the linebackers that they added, but I just don't see enough in the important, crucial aspects of defense to say that they're going to be good. So I think the Bears will be a fun team to watch, but not necessarily a good team, which is why I have them at number 13. At number 12, the Green Bay Packers. The Green Bay Packers, I think I could be sold either way. I've certainly been a fan of them this offseason, as very many of you watching this video are probably Packers fans. And you're probably wondering, why do you have us so low when you've been so positive about Jordan Love and the Packers roster in general? And I think it's because I just understand that the Packers are going through a transition season. Now, that is to say, I wouldn't sleep on the Packers. I've said that previously. I think the Packers should be treated seriously as a playoff threat. I view them in a different category from Chicago. I think Chicago's still a year or two away from really being that type of team. I think Green Bay, depending on how quickly Jordan Love can hit the ground running, they can be a really good team if the defense can live up to its potential and they can just be the same on the offensive line and the running game. Christian Watson can take that projected step forward. They've got a lot of things you like. Matt LaFleur has proven he can win in this league. Even though it's been with Aaron Rodgers, you still believe that he has that gas in the tank. So the Packers, they just need a transition season. That's why I have them at number 12. I think it would be extremely impressive if they were able to outdo this expectation and win 9 or 10 games, because it's a new quarterback. It's a new expectation for the fan base. It's a lot of new weaponry, like a rookie tight end, multiple rookie tight ends, a rookie receiver, second-year receivers. The defense has been kind of underwhelming from a scheme coaching standpoint. A lot of talent, but underwhelming from a coaching standpoint. Matt LaFleur adjusting to life post Aaron Rodgers. So there's a lot of things that I just think it's going to provide a roller coaster season. This team could make the playoffs, but they also could be bad. Like, there is a lot of room for error. So I have them at number 12, expecting a fun year and a promising season, but not necessarily a bunch of wins. At number 11, the Washington Commanders. This is the first team on the list that I will say I totally think I could be so wrong about the Commanders. And I'm going to outright say this because I want to kind of save my behind a little bit. I think the Commanders have a chance to be really good this year. And I think it has a lot to do with Sam Howell. I don't know how good Sam Howell is going to be. Nobody really knows how good Sam Howell is going to be because he's played one NFL game and he's only played a preseason. And I'm going to go back and I'm going to watch that, and I'm probably going to make a video about Sam Howell and the Commanders, because the more I've studied this roster, the team, the defense, I really do like the roster. I really do like a lot about this team. I think their defensive line is stellar. I think their defense in general doesn't have that many holes. You know, in the past couple of years, I've been saying, like, it's the D-line and not a lot else. But when you look at the secondary and what they've added in terms of a first and second round pick in the secondary, already a very good safety tandem, Kendall Fuller, I like the depth there. I feel like this is the best secondary they've had in a few seasons. And then getting Chase Young healthy will be great. The linebackers are a bit of a weakness, but overall, this defense is easily a top 10 unit, and they don't really have a weakness against the run or the pass. They're very balanced. Offensively, I think Eric Bieniemy could unlock a very dangerous receiving core led by Jahan Dotson and, of course, Scary Terry McLaurin. And you have Curtis Samuel, who I think is super underrated. Logan Thomas is still there at tight end. And you've got two running backs that I don't think are great, but I think are interesting. And I know Bieniemy likes Antonio Gibson a lot. I've always kind of liked Antonio Gibson, but for whatever reason in the previous regime, he kind of was put to the side. I'm not sure. The offensive line is a little suspect, but they've got a lot of players that I think are solid enough to form a good starting five. So if Sam Howell is surprisingly good, this team could easily make the playoffs. My problem with this team is I think they do project as the worst team in the toughest NFC division, and they're the most unproven mystery of a team. Could they make the playoffs? Yeah, they could. I do think they have the talent, but I just don't know. So I have them at number 11 for now. At number 10, the Atlanta Falcons. The Atlanta Falcons are kind of like the Commanders. I think they could make the playoffs. They've added a lot of things that I really like, specifically defensive front got a lot stronger, adding some proven commodities. Bud Dupree on the edge, Calais Campbell, and my guy David Onyemata in the middle. Then you have a secondary that adds Jesse Bates at safety. Richie Grant I've always liked. And the corners are maybe what's kind of disappointing me a little bit, because I like AJ Terrell, but you got Jeff Okudah as your number 2, and the guy is a bum. Okay, I'm just going to be honest. Mike Hughes has not played well as of late, and I still question whether you have that alpha pass rusher. I just don't know if you do on the edge, and that concerns me. The offense I love besides the quarterback, and that's my dilemma. I really feel like if this team had a more solid quarterback, other than Desmond Ridder, somebody I actually believed in, I'd rank them as the best team in this division. And could they still win this division? Yes. They have a powerful running game, a good coach. I like the coaching staff. I think Drake London will be great. Kyle Pitts should be better this year. And Bijan's a stud, and the offensive line is just unbelievable. But I don't know, man. I can't trust Desmond Ridder any higher than this position, for now, at least. At number 9, the Minnesota Vikings. The Vikings are the NFC team that a lot of people have labeled as a regression candidate, but at the same time, you can't totally disrespect the Vikings in a conference that doesn't have a lot of good quarterbacks, and they're one of the teams that, in my opinion, has a good quarterback. They have Kirk Cousins. And when you look at the offense, they pretty much have the same offense. They have the same offensive line led by 2 very good tackles. They have at least a decent enough running game. No longer Dalvin Cook, but Alexander Mattison has proven to get the job done. I'm intrigued to see what he can do as a pure starting back. TJ Hawkinson for a full season will be dynamic, I feel. He put up big numbers last year, especially in terms of catches and receptions. And then you have a really solid receiving core. KJ Osborne, I think people are forgetting because they added Jordan Addison in the draft. And of course, Justin Jefferson. So it's a really good offense. My problem is the defense. Like, Brian Flores is there, and I think they're going to get an upgrade in terms of coaching and scheme, and he's going to be really aggressive because he knows they don't have a lot of good players, and they have to be aggressive to get stops, and that could work for them because last year it felt like they were too conservative, but then again, their front isn't that bad. Like, Marcus Davenport, Harrison Phillips, and Danielle Hunter is pretty good. It's not half bad. And the linebacker position with Jordan Hicks is okay. Harrison Smith is still there. It's really the corners, the depth, the safeties, like, is Lewis Seen the guy stepping up potentially? Like, maybe we're sleeping on the Vikings a little bit. This is the thing about the NFC. You could sell me on a lot of these teams to be dangerous, a lot of these teams to make the playoffs. I think the Vikings are striking that fine line of being so overrated they've almost become underrated, and they went so young this offseason that I wonder how that's going to work out. Will that actually help them, or will that actually just absolutely kill any thought of them being good? Because last year they won so many close games, it's hard to project what they will be this year, but I have them at number 9 right now. At number 8, the New Orleans Saints. The Saints. Will they come marching into 2023? That's the question, man. I don't know. Like, the Saints, I hate to be saying I don't know on a lot of these teams, but it's just facts when it comes to the NFC, guys. Is Derek Carr going to be closer to 2 years ago or last year? Because that is very, 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 very important. Like, what Derek Carr are we getting with the Saints? Will Michael Thomas play? How many games is Alvin Kamara suspended for? Those type of questions is really what holds me back from ranking this team as a playoff team for now. I see them as close. I see them having a balanced roster. Maybe not as good as some people think. Like, I think the offensive line is a little overrated. I think the defense is a little overrated going into next year, given some of the turnover on the defensive line, given some of the age of important, crucial players like Cameron Jordan, Demario Davis, Tyrann Mathieu, etc. But I also could see a world where this team is really good. Like, I could see a season where Derek Carr is clicking with Chris Olave. Alvin Kamara looks rejuvenated. The O-line is as good as it's been the last couple of years. There's a bunch of different tight ends contributing. Michael Thomas is actually playing. The defense is playing as good as they have been. And some of these younger defensive linemen step into the roles that they should be stepping into. The secondary is still playing aggressive man coverage and being feisty and all over people. So I could see the Saints being really a problem in an NFC that is wide open. But I could also see them severely disappointing. Despite a really weak schedule, I could see them being a little too old. I could see them being a team that just doesn't quite click. I could see Derek Carr coming in and really just not grasping this leadership role for this franchise and just having another disappointing quarterback come in and try to replace Drew Brees. Like, I could see a lot of different things happening with this team, and that's my problem. I just see, like, all different worlds. I feel like Doctor Strange in Infinity War. That's what I feel like right now. So, the Saints, I have them number 8, the first team out of the playoffs, but I've gone back and forth on whether or not I want to have them winning their division. It's just really tough for me right now to decide. At number 7, I have the Carolina Panthers. The Carolina Panthers are my top team in the NFC South right now. The reason why, and I've sat there and honestly, I've moved the Panthers everywhere. I've had the Panthers at number 10. I've had the Panthers 3rd in their division. I've had the Panthers 1st in their division. I've had the Panthers 2nd in their division. I've had the Panthers everywhere. But when I look at the NFC South and I really determine teams that I felt like, okay, so Panthers played well at the end of last year. They played really well to the point where they almost eliminated the Bucs from the playoffs. A lot of people forget that. People forget this because they had the first pick, but they traded up for the first pick. So they weren't actually the worst team in the league last year. They traded for Bryce Young. So that's first and foremost. They, I think, had a very underwhelming coaching staff for the last couple of years. And this is why I believe the Panthers are my top team in the NFC South right now. And it's because of their coaching staff. I think they have so many experienced coaches. People forget, like, Jim Caldwell is on this staff. Frank Reich is the new head coach. Evero comes over from Denver after a really great season coaching up Denver's defense. I think he could do the same in Carolina. A Carolina defense that I thought got better this offseason, adding Von Bell and Shai Tuttle. And I think having a very solid front seven, maybe not a partner in crime for Brian Burns on the other side, but besides that, it's pretty darn solid. The secondary got deeper. I think that J.C. Horn could be one of the best corners in the league this year. And then you have an offense that really can run the ball. I think that's going to be their identity. They're going to run the ball. Miles Sanders was signed to a lot of money, and they have a really good offensive line, I think low key. That is going to be their identity. And then they've got a lot of different names at wide receiver that they can throw in. Now, they don't have a DJ Moore type player, but Adam Thielen, DJ Chark, You add a second round pick to the mix in Mingo, Terrace Marshall. I know a lot of Panthers fans, and I think the Panthers organization is high on, potentially with his new coaching staff, he'll be a better player. I just see a lot to work with here. Even though there's no like stud, I think there's a lot to work with. Hayden Hurst as well. So Carolina in a bad division just feels like they have a very solid team, a very solid roster, a promising young quarterback with the best all-around coaching staff in a division that I think that is very important. They feel like this year's version of the Giants, which is why right now I have them at number 7. At number 6, speaking of the New York Giants, I have the New York Giants. The G-Men are my number 6, and the reason is, and I've gone back and forth, I really wanted to be that guy that was really high on the Giants last year, and I was right. But I also wanted to be the guy that said, not so fast. They're going to take a step back this year. But it's really hard to make that case when the NFC is so bad and the Giants have such a good coaching staff. It's really irresponsible for me to judge and deny and doubt Brian Daboll, Don Martindale, and this coaching staff, especially considering they got a better receiving core now. Darren Waller is there. They added Paris Campbell, who I think is going to have a nice year with them. Yeah, there's this Saquon drama that does bug me a lot, but Evan Neal could get better. They drafted a really promising center. Their offensive line could be better. Daniel Jones in year 2 could be better, maybe more dynamic throwing the ball down the field. Their defense does have a pretty darn good front 7, and I love the addition of A'Shawn Robinson. Don't sleep on that. I think the linebacker position will be so much better. Last year was the worst in football. You add a real legit top 20 linebacker. And then the secondary could also be better. I mean, I love Deonte Banks. There was not many people higher on Deonte Banks than me. So I think the Giants made a lot of savvy moves that point them in the right direction. Now, could they be worse in situational football, worse in close games, and result in a worse record? Absolutely, that could happen. They could just be a kind of unlucky team. They could get injured. A lot of things could happen with this team. They weren't so talented last year that they just blew away teams. It was more about scheme. It was more about situational football. This year, they're more talented. But the question is, will that result in the same thing? Will they get to the playoffs? Will they be better? I don't know. Maybe they'll be about the same, but it will still result in the playoff berth. That's kind of where I'm at right now with the New York Giants, is those things will balance out. Them being more talented with them being maybe a little bit unluckier, and that will kind of balance itself out to about a 9-8 record once again, and probably a playoff berth as a wild card. I just think Daniel Jones is a pretty good quarterback, and they've got a solid enough roster that fits what the coaching staff wants to do, and the coaching staff, again, is one of the best in the NFC. At number 5, the Detroit Lions. The Lions are my number 5 team. I don't see the ceiling with them that I do with my number 4 team, so that's kind of the differentiation between 4 and 5. But I think the Lions are pretty darn solid. Jared Goff was a good player last year, and I think he's a good quarterback. He's not a great quarterback, but he's a good quarterback and deserves that respect. The offensive line is very, very good, and they can run the ball, pass the ball. They've got a brilliant offensive coordinator who strikes a great balance between their run game, their pass game. Jahmyr Gibbs is a new weapon for them. I'm intrigued to see Laporta. I don't think he's going to be super productive as a rookie, as many tight ends are not, but I expect him to do some things and help them in certain areas, maybe closer to the end of the season. Jameson Williams getting suspended really hurt my soul, but I think once he comes back, he's going to take off. I think that actually fuels him to be better on the field. And then you have, of course, Amon-Ra, the automatic first down. You bring back Marvin Jones as a solid number 4, but will have to play a lot early because of Jameson. And then, of course, Josh Reynolds is solid, good rapport with Jared Goff. So really good offense. Maybe not the absolute peak offenses in the league, but very, very good. And then defense, I think, is very much improved on paper. The question is, can they execute? I think the defensive line maybe didn't improve as much as I would have liked, but they do have a lot of players they like and a lot of depth. So we'll see if some of those young players can take a step forward. Aiden Hutchinson, I think, will be a real difference maker this year, which will kind of exponentially uplift the rest of the defensive line. Jack Campbell was my favorite linebacker in the draft. I love that addition. And then the secondary, I think, is really, really solid. They don't have like a shutdown guy at the corner position, but I think a diverse secondary, like a diverse safety room with Brian Branch and Chauncey Gardner-Johnson and Tracy Walker. I think there's a lot to like here. Cam Sutton, Emmanuel Mosley, we'll see how he looks off the injury. I think there's a lot to like with the Lions. I think they are a very secure team in the playoffs this year. I just don't necessarily see them as like a Super Bowl threat yet. At number 4, the Seattle Seahawks. The Seahawks are my number 4, and I brought up with the Lions that I feel like the Seahawks have a greater ceiling. And I think some of that has to do with the defense in the secondary could be really, really good. Like really good. Tariq Woolen, Devin Witherspoon could provide like the type of tandem that the Jets had last year. And I know that Seahawks fans hate the comparison to the Jets with Sauce and Tariq, but like now Tyreek Woolen has a guy opposite him that can really get the most out of him and help him. And then you have a safety trio that is dynamic and different, which I love. Julian Love being kind of the Swiss Army knife player. Jamal Adams, allowing Jamal Adams to do what he does best, which is basically play linebacker. And then Quandre Diggs playing free safety. The linebacker duo could be awesome. Bobby Wagner, Jordan Brooks when he gets healthy. The D-line should be better, adding Draymond Jones and Jerron Reed, but I don't expect like a dynamic pass rush, but their defense could be a lot better, like at least middling, if not better. And then the offense on paper is truly dynamic. JSN in the slot with Tyler Lockett and DK Metcalf. And then you have Noah Fant, and you've got Kenneth Walker, who I think is being slept on. Like, I understand they added Charbonnet or whatever, but Walker's the dude. And then Geno Smith's going to have a big year, I think, once again being a Pro Bowl NFC quarterback. So I think the Seahawks are really darn good. I think they can compete with the 49ers for this division. Don't necessarily see them all the way there like some other people do, but I think they're really, really good, and I wouldn't be surprised if they won 11 plus games this year. At number 3, the Philadelphia Eagles, which is going to be the controversial placement on this list. Perfectly okay with me. I will take the slack. Now, I will say this. If I'm wrong about the Eagles, it's because I'm wrong about the defense. Because the offense is the best in the NFL, and I'm not going to back down from that. Their offensive line is ludicrous. Their tight end is great. They've got 2 awesome receivers. Jalen Hurts is really good, and I think will continue to develop in the passing game. Their running back room is strong and deep. Look out for Gainwell, by the way. I don't think enough fans really talk about him, but I've always been a fan of him. I think he could be the guy that really breaks out from this group. I know that a lot of people are expecting Swift or expecting Penny, but Gainwell might be the guy. So I like the offense a lot, and they are the most balanced, difficult to stop because of that balance offense in the NFL. They can attack you through the running game with the running back, the running game with the quarterback, the passing game, the deep passing game, the screen game. They can do it all. Defensively is where I have a lot of questions. I'm not a fan of their linebackers. Nicholas Moreau has never really been very good in the NFL. Nakobe Dean, I think, was extremely overrated coming out of the draft, and I think the only reason fans love him is because of his play at Georgia, and I think a lot of that had to do with how good the defensive line was in Georgia, and some Eagles fans would say, well, look at the Eagles' defensive line, and I agree. If I'm wrong about Dean, it's because the defensive line in Philadelphia uplifts him to be a good player, but I just don't think physically he's all that talented. Like, he's very mentally sharp. It's just like he's small and he's not that fast. And like, I don't know. I think Edwards is going to be a huge loss for you guys. I also think CJ Gardner-Johnson is a huge loss for you guys. I think his ability to play the ball, his safety ability, the interceptions, the playmaking, and his attitude is a big loss. Terrell Edmunds is kind of hit and miss. I'm not a fan of Blankenship. I just think the safety position is really, really a downgrade. Marcus Epps even, I think, is a loss. He played 1,200 snaps last year. So I tweeted that out. I said, I don't understand how so many people think the Eagles defense will be what it was last year or be better. I see a lot of Eagles fans saying it will be better. There is no chance. Like, no chance. They're not going to put up the sacks. They're not going to be as good. People are going to attack their weaknesses, and they have worse personnel. Like, I don't see Darius Slay playing as well as he did last year. I don't see James Bradbury playing as well as he did last year. They're older players. They're going to decline. Avonte Maddox, I like. The defensive line is strong and deep and spectacular, but there were moments where they were kind of struggling against the run last year, and that was certainly a big weakness at the end versus Isaiah Pacheco and the Chiefs. I can't erase that performance in the Super Bowl. No matter how much blame you put on Jonathan Gannon, it was bad, man. It was really bad. And it feels like if you block this front, you can attack them. And Jalen Carter's not going to be Javon Hargrave right away. Probably be pretty good, but he's not going to be Javon Hargrave right away. I like, some of these players, but Brandon Graham and Fletcher Cox, again, older guys that you're relying on. Hassan Reddick's great. Derek Barnett's back, and you've got Williams, and you've got Jordan Davis stepping up, hopefully. So there's things to like, and there's things to get excited for. I just feel like they're not going to be as dominant as last year. They're going to be a very good team. I just think that teams are going to study them this offseason. Teams are going to have a better idea of how to handle their offense, even though it's going to be really hard. And then their defense, I think, is going to be the area where they do lack. So that's why I have them at number 3. I just think there's a general regression that happens when teams go to the Super Bowl and everyone starts to study you. And that's what I see with the Eagles this year. At number 2, I have the Dallas Cowboys. The Dallas Cowboys could easily be my number 1, but there's 2 problems with the Dallas Cowboys for me. One, there is a significant edge for the San Francisco 49ers in the coaching category. I have a lot of questions about Mike McCarthy taking over as the offensive mind. That being said, I've always been a fan of Mike McCarthy as an offensive guy coming from Green Bay, especially in his early days with Brett Favre and Aaron Rodgers. I felt like he was a very, ahead of his time schematical coach, but something went wrong in Green Bay, and then we've never really seen him take the helm since. So I'm concerned a little bit, especially with Schottenheimer being his main kind of go-to guy who, as the Jets guy, really felt kind of simplistic. I think he was with Seattle for a while. He always feels kind of simple, very run-based, and I feel like this team should be very pass-heavy. They have a very good receiving core. CeeDee Lamb, Brandon Cooks to stretch the field and open up CeeDee Lamb, and then Michael Gallup. Don't sleep on Michael Gallup. He'll be back. He'll be healthy. Really like the trio there. And then Tony Pollard's going to get more work. I think he is a dynamic player. The offensive line could be very good, but I'm concerned about the depth a little bit. The other area that I'm a little concerned about, which is why they're not my number 1, is just Dak being like special. We've seen Dak be good, and last year Dak wasn't even good. I would say Dak was kind of average, to be honest with you. If Dak can be really good this year, they can be the best team in the NFC. But I need to see it again. Like, I don't know if he needs to start to move more and start to trust his legs more often than he has. Maybe it's been as simple as the receiving core declined, so Dak declined. Maybe it was because of the injuries. Maybe it's because, I don't know. But I do feel like if this team is going to be as good as they can be, Dak needs to be that dude. And I honestly don't think it's going to take a lot in the NFC, because he's arguably the second best quarterback in this conference. I would probably put him 3rd, but he's in the mix. So Dak, get it done, really, because the defense is spectacular. I think it's arguably the best defense in football. It has very few holes. It's a very deep defensive line. It's a very fast, young, up-and-coming defense. It's got a lot of depth. The secondary is awesome. And Dan Quinn's a great coordinator. So I think they're going to be a very good team because they've got everything. They can run, pass, stop the run, and stop the pass. They've got everything. They just need Dak to be great, and they need Mike McCarthy to be good enough, and this team can represent the NFC in the Super Bowl. But my number one team in the NFC is the San Francisco 49ers. And I will honestly say that I think the 49ers have more flaws from a roster standpoint than the Dallas Cowboys and maybe the Philadelphia Eagles. But they have Kyle Shanahan and they have a lot of awesome players. They have some really spectacular players. Trent Williams, Christian McCaffrey, George Kittle, Deebo Samuel, Brandon Ayuk, Nick Bosa, Eric Armstead, Javon Hargrave, Hufanga, Fred Warner, Dre Greenlaw, Charvarius Ward, etc. This roster is loaded. They have an upside of about 12 Pro Bowlers. They have the best coach in the league, in my opinion. Steve Wilkes replaces DeMeco Ryans, the DC. Pretty good hire there. The O-line, there is maybe a question at right tackle, but I will say that Mike McGlinchey was never as good as his PFF grade suggested. The run game, I think, will be awesome because Kyle and Christian McCaffrey. They have a lot of depth at running back. I think Brock Purdy is good. Like, I think the reason I have them at number one is I believe in Brock Purdy. And I think I'm going to make a video about Brock Purdy, to be honest with you. I believe in Brock Purdy. I think he is a gamer. I think he is a baller. I think he is a good player. And I think he is what they need. So I have trust in Brock Purdy. And then behind that, I think Sam Darnold will be a decent backup. I'm not even thinking about Trey Lance. They've got a lot of weapons. And I think they're going to hit the ground running this year in a way they haven't in a long time. Usually they start slow. Defensively, I think their D-line is going to be the best in the league. Adding Javon Hargrave is going to be such a problem for other teams. They've got a great front seven. You can't run the ball on them. You can't pass the ball on them because you got to get rid of it so quick. And I think their secondary, has different pieces, but I wouldn't necessarily feel like it's worse. I don't think it's definitively worse. The only big loss I would say was Jimmy Ward. But besides that, I feel like Isaiah Oliver was a savvy pickup. They did draft a safety that I like a lot. Lenore was really good at the end of last season. And Gibson, playing more is just fine with me because he was really good. So they've got a great defense. They've got a great coach. And their upside of their offense is there. Like, they were putting up 30 a game with Brock Purdy. So if that continues, this could be the best team in the NFC this year. And those are my NFC Power Rankings entering training camp. Let me know yours in the comments section below. It's Mitch. Thank you so much for watching. Gronk, spike the like button and subscribe for more in-depth NFL discussion just like this. Peace.